What's up, everybody? Rantman here. And tonight, I want to talk about the lawsuit problem. Because Donald Trump has personally, and through his businesses, filed hundreds, if not thousands, of lawsuits over the past 5 decades. They range from contract disputes and real estate litigation to defamation claims and election-related lawsuits. Before entering politics, Trump and his companies had been involved in over 4,000 legal cases, which many were filed by Trump or his businesses. Just a few examples: Donald Trump versus the New York Times, where he claimed that the newspaper conspired to obtain confidential tax records, dismissed by a judge. Trump versus CNN, sought $475 million for allegedly calling the election claims the big lie, dismissed. Court ruled statements were protected opinion. Trump versus Hillary Clinton and others, alleged conspiracy to falsely tie him to Russia, judge dismissed. Claimed legally deficient and later sanctioned Trump's attorneys. Trump versus Letitia James, attempted to stop New York civil fraud investigation, dismissed. It's just settlements, dismissals, one after the other, after the other, after the other. It just, his campaign and challenges in Pennsylvania, multiple dismissals, versus the Wisconsin Election Commission, he lost. Arizona election lawsuit, lost. Georgia, lost. Nevada, lost. It's just insane. And then through the 70s through 2015, he frequently sued over breach of construction contracts, casino debts, real estate development disputes, trademark infringement, property tax assessments, defamation, employment agreements. Like, it is just ridiculous. Most of them they go into dismissal or settlements or something to that effect. Oh man, it's awful. So he's filed defamation lawsuits against CNN, the New York Times, Hillary Clinton, Pulitzer Prize Board, ABC News, CBS Paramount, and various journalists and authors, most of which are dismissed. One is still being litigated, a couple were settled. It's crazy. It's insane that his go-to is to just sue somebody. Anything that he doesn't like or anything that makes him look bad, it's immediately to the courts to sue. And it's kind of funny because recently he's been losing a lot of cases. He's 0-11 right now in the voter cases against the states, and his personal attorney, Todd Blanche, aka the Attorney General, he is out there just making himself look bad, and they're losing case after case after case right now because he refuses to testify and outright said that he will not testify in court or anything like that. So you have a bunch of these cases where they're getting either dismissed or thrown out because he won't testify. They're losing cases because they would rather lose a case than have Todd Blanche sit down and give a testimony, a deposition. So a couple of the more interesting cases, you have the IRS lawsuit where Trump took on the IRS for $10 billion for the tax return nonsense. And then, of course, they settled. Trump settled with himself and the IRS, and Todd Blanche just kind of did it all. Well, the process is they went to the judge. The judge said, I need both sides, to submit cause for this lawsuit and your defenses. Well, that didn't happen. They ended up deciding that they were just going to settle. to which they never sent the settlement agreement to the judge. The judge is supposed to have gotten this agreement. It's normal practice in a situation like this, and then the judge just kind of dismisses the case after reviewing it. Well, Blanche just said it was dismissed and never actually sent the settlement agreement to the judge. So the judge just was like, okay, I guess I'll dismiss it, but I never saw this information, so, it's not following proper procedures. So what ends up happening is you have 35 retired judges that reach out to this judge and say that she should reopen the investigation for fraud on the court, because Blanche was the only signature on that, and he ended up adding this little amendment to where Trump and his family could not be held accountable for any past tax fraud or tax inquiries, audits, or any future. So these judges are saying, I believe you just had fraud on the court and you should reopen an investigation, which the judge is pretty much about to. Then you also have a case in Washington and cases in Minnesota, and all of these judges are investigating, potentially putting a special counsel, which is an independent counsel and an independent lawyer who will research the case, do discovery, do depositions and all that. And it's somebody that's not involved in the DOJ. It's independent. So you'll get a more fair ruling. And then you have the whole Katie Phang thing, where Katie Phang is an independent journalist who sued the DOJ and Todd Blanche for failure to follow and comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act, where they should have released all the files to us, which we want, as does Congress and the Oversight Committee. Well, the Democrats, some of the Republicans. It's crazy that we're allowing this to just continue on like it is. So you have her who filed this lawsuit, and they had a deadline that they had to respond in order to argue their side. They completely missed the deadline and did not submit anything. They didn't acknowledge it. They didn't even tell the judge, hey, we think this is crazy, or we don't want to do this, nothing. So the judge basically assumed that that's admitting it, and that's that. You're going to have a court case now. So you have a lot of these things all coming, and basically this Friday is the deadline for that case. And all of these things are happening right before Blanche's confirmation hearing. He's supposed to go in front of the Senate on the 15th and 16th to do his interview to see if he can become the official Attorney General. And with all these court cases that are supposed to happen this week, I think one of them had to have been done today, the 30th. And it's just... a lot of things are coming down on Blanche and essentially Trump as a result right before his hearing. And then you have this scenario with the Epstein files where Blanche pretty much led a meeting with a group of people, including Vance and Susie Wiles and Stephen Chung, the communications guy. And it ended up having Bondi and Bongino and Kash Patel all on the phone as well. And they're all sitting there trying to figure out what they're going to do about the Epstein files and how to cover it up and all of that. So Bongino loses his shit and is like, you guys messed this up. I want no part of this. Susie Wiles is like, well, we're all in this now. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm out. And just kind of like wanted to resign, but they didn't want him to look like he was resigning over this. So they basically pretended like he was still there for a little while and let him keep going. Well, now this new book by Maggie Haberman and something Swan, I forget his name, but basically Jonathan Swan, they just put out this book that tells all these crazy stories, including Trump's little love affair with his 34-year-old assistant who basically is in love with him. And then you have these asshats on Fox News like Jesse Waters, who spits out all this ridiculous propaganda and is obviously a transphobe, homophobe, sexist, misogynist, racist, because the other night I saw a clip where he was doing one of his dumb, propaganda rants. And he was talking specifically saying you have these women who go get these useless degrees and then they move to New York and can't find a job and then end up having to live together. And then he goes as far as to say, because these women haven't found a husband yet. And basically just some other sexist, misogynistic stuff where he's just saying that the women are the foolish ones for getting these useless degrees and not finding a man. And it's just like, you gotta be kidding me, man. And then he starts spitting out all this false knowledge, false facts about New York and Medicare and this and that, and starts making some like pretty much racist comments as well. I forget specifically what they were, but it was just like, dude, you're just on a roll, all in one little segment, one little rant. He just showed off a whole bunch of hate and fear and negativity, disparaging women and minorities, and it's just like, dude, like, do you even hear yourself? And he just gets to continue doing this because that's just what happens on Fox News. They come up with the weirdest, wildest ways to spend the stupidest things. This whole reflecting pool. Oh my God, this is the most incredible nonsense to ever happen. So, for those that don't know, they put this sealant thing down and then this blue coating on top of that, and it's supposed to be so great that Trump was on there talking about how it was impervious to damage and you couldn't cut it with a sharp knife or this or that or this or that. It's like beautiful, perfect, tough. Now he's saying, like, basically they put that in there, the algae came bad, turned it from blue to green, and then they dumped chemicals, hydrogen peroxide, to try to kill the algae, and it ended up messing up the liner. And then they start saying that Democrats, radical Democrats, went in there and took a knife or a razor blade and sliced it up 350-foot gash. It started as 200, and then it went to like 300, and then somehow went to 350. And he's talking about a whole bunch of cuts. But if you look at the footage, you can just see where it's like coming undone. They're jagged flaps. They look like stingray like flaps. And none of them are clean cuts. And then they're trying to arrest people because they walked up and touched it. They arrested an Olympian. They arrested a young girl. Just because they walked up in broad daylight and touched the water or touched the little flap things that were already ripped and coming up out of the water. But they make this big thing trying to bully and arrest these people all for a show because Trump is so deranged in his head that he thinks that there's no way that him or the people he picked did a shitty job. And that's exactly what happened. Because he hired a pool guy. And the guy came in and did a half-assed job. They even said that they didn't give it enough time to properly cure before they dumped all this water in there. And so many people called that the algae was going to come, scientists and botanologists and people like that, biologists, like all these people who know what the hell they're talking about, said that this was going to happen. Didn't stop him from doing any of this, especially with the no-bid contract where they did like $3 million worth of work, but paid like $13 million to this guy in this company for a half-assed job that has already failed. And he's saying that the Democrats dump fertilizer in there to make the algae grow. Like, come on, man. This is beyond stupid. And they have all kinds of cameras out there. They have National Guards posted out there. And it's like, okay, how did anybody, whether it be in the middle of the night or not, take a razor blade, go under the water, and make a 350-foot gash in this thing? Like, come on. Do you see how stupid this sounds coming out of my mouth? Just repeating this? Imagine how stupid it sounds coming out of the president's mouth. And this is supposed to be the president of the United States. This is somebody who is supposed to be professional and show that they're responsible and can lead the country properly, and that they're using their information that they get to make the best decisions to benefit our country and take care of us and make sure that we're safe and have livable wages and are able to afford everything that we need. But instead, he's doing everything he can to profit himself and his friends. And we're the ones that have to suffer. We, the people, are essentially their punchline, because they're laughing as they just keep taking our money and doing all these no-bid contracts and doing these defense contracts with companies that they're involved in and own stock in, and it's outright insane. And then when you call them out, the first thing they do is throw out a lawsuit. The lawsuit to sue people for basically claiming facts and calling out the truth, or his political opponents who embarrass him or look like they could be a threat to him. And it's unbelievable that this is normalized with him, that this is just allowed to keep going with this jackass, because people just, he does it so much and so fast and so many things that it's hard to actually focus on one before the next one comes, and you get used to it, and people are getting tired of it. Judges are getting tired of it. They're starting to clap back, and they're agreeing with these cases like the Katie Fang case and the E. Jean Carroll case, and just all these election cases where they're trying to, basically the Supreme Court shut down his mail-in voting fraud thing and said no, that they're going to stand as they are and people can do the mail-in voting, and as long as it's postmarked by the election date, they can still accept ballots after, blah, 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 blah. So it's insane that the president and his sycophants are going out there And they're saying it's essentially the message of, if we win, everything's good. If we lose, the election's rigged. And you see so many people all over the country that are just tired of this. His approval rating is in the low 30s, almost into the 20s. People are tired of him. People are tired of his effect on the economy. People are just tired of the whole Republican Party and the regime and the presidency and how they're abusing us. Not to mention the fact that they're all part of the Epstein class and abused a lot of children and did even more shady business deals over the years. And they even had Leon Black come in to do his informal interview, and then they start questioning on some sexual assault charges and NDAs that he made people sign, and boom, he gets up and walks out and doesn't come back. They did the right thing this time. Pat Comer said, nah, we're going to issue a subpoena for you to come in under oath, and we're going to subpoena the NDA documents to see what they had to say. And they're bringing him back under oath in front of an official hearing. They need to do more of those. They need to get back on track with that. But it is nice to see some of these Republicans in the House and the Senate saying, okay, enough is enough. I'm done with this nonsense. I'm done with Donald. He's pushed me out on the primaries to where I can't even be reelected, or he's just crossed lines that I just can't get behind, because they see that he is causing them all to lose and essentially to basically lose control of the House and the Senate to the Democrats. Now, we need Democrats that are going to go in there and fight for us, not just get in there and try to even out the status quo and just kind of half-ass go after some of these people and not really lay the hammer down like they need to. So they need to get in there and they need to immediately start holding accountability. I mean, they're going to pretty much gut the executive branch. They're going to end up having to arrest probably most of the cabinet. If they actually investigate and hold him accountable, they'll definitely put Donald Trump behind bars and get him out of office and convict him. And then I can just imagine the lawsuits that are going to come flying in once he's no longer under his immunity for being the president. If this is done right, this could be a complete overhaul on our government, and for the better, and actually do some good. And it's nice to see that some of the Republicans are finally sacking up and doing the right thing. And it's amazing to see these judges that have had enough and are tired of getting their time wasted on these bullshit lawsuits that don't hold up to anything and that won't get to a court, let alone in front of an actual judge with the lawyers in a hearing. It's just utter stupidity and just blatant corruption. And they just keep doing this nonsense on these false grounds that have no merit, no standing, just to try to get people to either stop what they're doing or just settle to end it because they don't feel like going through the process. And luckily, certain people in these lawsuits, like the BBC, are saying, okay, you want to sue us for defamation and money loss and blah, blah, blah. Show us your records. Prove it. Show us paperwork where you actually took a hit and we've caused you financial loss. And they won't do it. Which means they're most likely going to end up dismissing the case because they're not. They would rather lose a case than actually give records and testimony, because they know that it's going to cause more harm than just losing the case. It's going to lead to other investigations, because there's nothing that they've done that isn't fraud or theft or some form of corruption. And it's hilarious to see this Trump State Fair thing or Trump World Fair thing that he's doing that has hardly anybody there, and just outright failures. The power going out on day one, and all the food booths leaving food to get spoiled, and all the ice cream to melt and stuff like that. Yesterday, Monday, was supposed to be MAHA, Make America Healthy Again Day. And they serve like corn dogs and Chicago and New York style pizzas and fried whatever. It just chili cheese for cheese fries. Like, none of it was healthy. It's like, this is supposed to be healthy day, and you're selling artery clogging foods for people to eat. It's just, it's silly. It's absurd, but it's what life is these days. And it's all just, like I said, being normalized. It's just, it's unbelievable, because you put any other president in the office and let one of these things happen, and they'd be calling for impeachment. He'd be all over every news channel. It would be just this huge deal. But for some reason, it's just normal and accepted with Trump, and it shouldn't be. They always want to sue everybody for every dumb little thing, and most of these cases hold no merit, never go anywhere, get dismissed, whatever. And then you have the successful lawsuits like Katie Fang and some of these other lawyers who step up and file injunctions, or they sue against these horrible, dumb lawsuits that they put out there that have no merit, or these corrupt things that they're trying to pass through under the radar. Luckily, you have certain lawyers that step in and take care of that. And then you have these judges who are enough is enough. Here's my call to action. I think that we the people need to come together and file a class action lawsuit against Donald Trump and his administration for mental anguish and financial hardship, because they have taken our hard-earned taxpayer dollars and thrown it away at this war that nobody wanted and has no true end in sight, as well as all these no-bid contracts in companies like defense companies that they have part ownership in or have heavily invested in, as well as these no-bid contracts to all their buddies for these stupid projects like the reflecting pool and the ballroom. And they just continue to take our money and waste it on things, or just pocket it for themselves. And it causes so much mental stress and anguish to we the people, because now we can't decide whether we're going to be able to pay this bill or feed our family, because we don't have enough money to do both with these high gas prices, high food prices, and just outright inflation on everything. Let's sue the shit out of them and get our money back. Until next time, I'm Rantman.